All right, so January 5th, remember the day prior, you have at at Freedom Plaza over here. Where is it?
Where's courthouse? Or, I mean, the Capitol.
Where's the Freedom Plaza right here? Right here, Freedom Plaza.
Yeah.
You got the White House over here. You got Freedom Plaza over here. Remember, there was right over in this area is where Ray Epps was standing right next to John Sullivan, and he was saying, right down there, we're going to attack the Capitol, right? Remember earlier in the day, a couple things that were going on. You had the D.C. Mayor, Muriel Bowser, sending a memo saying that executive branch, law enforcement, DOD, National Guard, we're not going to take anything in until you actually, or without our permission. So she's basically refusing any support as it relates to the following day. Next up, at noon, we have at the W Hotel, which is all right here, JW Marriott. At this hotel lobby, you had John Sullivan meeting with Nancy Pelosi's son-in-law at noon in the lobby. I got two people that reached out to me via Telegram that indicated that that was who they saw, okay? We need to bring them in to testify. Hopefully we can do it now with this new subcommittee, because then we can share it to the whole world to see under oath that that's who they saw. And that'll be the impetus to call in John Sullivan, the inner breach team leader, I argue, and then Michael Pelosi Voss, who's the son-in-law of Nancy Pelosi, and ask them, what the hell were you talking about,
right,
friends? And then I want to see all your communications, subpoena all of it, all your emails, text messages, everything you guys had, okay? That's at noon. And then later on that night, down here at Freedom Plaza, is it possible that Michael Voss told John Sullivan, hey, you're going to be the inner breach team leader, and you have to communicate with someone, recruit someone, or communicate with your buddy Ray Epps to do the outer breach and lead the outer breach. That's what I think probably happened. But the only way we can find out for sure is, like, we have to get these people subpoenaed, and then we have to get all their documents and records. This committee can do it, the House Administration Committee, now that we have control over it. Later on that evening, that same John Sullivan that met earlier in the day with Michael Voss, the son-in-law of Pelosi, communicates probably to Ray Epps what needs to be done. And then he goes into action. What else probably transpired between noon and evening 8 p.m. that day? I argue that it was John Sullivan probably had one of his Insurgents USA folks. Remember, John Sullivan's been working with the Democrats all summer,
right,
with the Summer of Love,
right,
and all that. So they're just basically calling him up and saying, hey, we got another op for you. This is the op. So then he probably recruits the dude that placed the pipe bombs over here at the DNC. Look at this. Here's the Capitol, here's the DNC, and here's the RNC. Right over here. Republican National Committee and the Democrat National Committee. See how close they are? Guess what, fellas? As I look into the Capitol Police Board, Title III of the U.S. Code, and look at the jurisdiction that the U.S. Capitol Police has, guess where it goes?
Around the DNCs?
It covers this entire area. Down here, and then down here like that. Which includes the DNC and the RNC. Concurrent jurisdiction with Metropolitan Police Department. So if you're Nancy Pelosi, and you want to have the Capitol wide open so that you can easily bring in people that are already agitated. You take off all your law enforcement assets, or at least a lot of them, in a way that looks legit by creating the diversion at the DNC and RNC. Half your force goes down there. Chief Son, who's not a voting member of the Capitol Police Board, thinks that it's a legitimate threat. He's obligated, like his, right? Like he's obligated, no matter what side of the aisle he's on,
right,
it doesn't matter.
The next indicated thing,
which is, if he thinks it's legit, he has to divert assets down there, because that is the threat right now.
Right.
And when did that happen? 3 minutes before 1 p.m.
First breach, right?
12:57. So he reports. Everybody goes down here. So now the Capitol is completely like barren.
Yep, it was barren.
What happens next? Bare. Like there's like only a few Capitol Police officers around here. Meanwhile, they know there's gonna be a lot of people coming. So then what happens? You got Ray Epps over here whispering to initiate that initial breach on the outside of the Capitol.
Ryan Sanford.
I mean,
And then you
something-
have another couple people that are tearing down the gates and the fencing down here.
Mm-hmm.
So the initial wave of people, you could technically argue that they knew that there was a trespass. The only other people that can be charged for trespass, in my opinion, are only those people that perceived and saw those things going down. So $50 fine, right? Or those people that were organizers of different sanctioned events around the Capitol, because they would have gotten an email from the U.S. Capitol Police Chief saying, hey, here are the rules, here's the restricted zone. So like only those two groups of people, the government has an argument to claim that they trespassed.
Yes, and I can concur.
Everybody else did not know,
Yep.
would have never had
In a million
any
years.
knowledge to know that there was a trespass, because every other day you can walk up
Yep.
to the Capitol, hug it, kiss it, caress it all you want.
And I can confirm, because by the time I got there at 2 o'clock, there was not a sign, a fence,
Unless-
anything,
yeah.
anywhere. Yep.
Unless you're over here, there is a sign right here on normal days, halfway up the stairs, that says members only. So meaning, everybody that didn't see or participate in removing fencing, there is absolutely no expectation that they would have known that they were trespassing at all.
I agree.
Unless it was like beyond the stairs here, because on normal days, that's where. But even then, like if it's not even there, and this is your first time visiting the Capitol, those are mitigating circumstances. You're not going to know. So,
They could have been obscured by the sheer amount of people.
Well, it would have been.
and then
What
add to
two-
that,
what
if you're
two-
being waved in by Capitol Police, well, then there's your defense.
Yes, yes.
What two streets did the protesters come down when they got to the Capitol?
It was Pennsylvania Avenue
Is it Constitution?
and Constitution, I believe.
But
Yeah, and then
I-
a few of them came in.
a lot of us came straight down the
Right
mall.
here.
That's why I came.
So they went, they went like this.
Yeah.
And that was the apex to everything. And that's exactly where Ray Epps was to do the
Yep,
initial
yep,
breach.
that's exactly right.
Set up right here and right here and right here.
Yep.
There's two satellite towers, and one right here in a triangle formation. Everybody walked right between those two towers. That's when facial recognition started.
That part, I don't know. I mean, I'll take your word for it, but I haven't looked into that
And
investigation.
I've got
part.
it. Yeah, I have.
We were looking at
So
footage
let's-
the other day.
And that was, and who told me that was Stan Gephardt.
Who's he?
He's done a lot of testimony, like over 400 for use of
Use a force expert.
Yeah, use of force expert.
Okay.
Is that the guy from Epoch Times?
Also, he owns facial recognition software.
That's not the same guy from Epoch Times documentary, is it?
Yeah.
It is.
So
Okay.
check this out. So while the outer breach happens, and this is big, I want you to correct me in anything that I'm saying. As
This
I'm
is
saying.
where we'll start. Yeah.
Should this video keep going right
Yeah,
now?
yeah,
guys?
absolutely.
Okay.
So as we break, as Ray Epps breaks,
Yeah.
and a couple other people that were with him break through, what's the next thing that happens? You see people, you hear people starting to say, "Hey, push forward, right?" Who are these instigators? And then you got the scaffolding here, the scaffold commander, based on Darren Beatty's reporting, right?
Yes, yes.
It's almost as though they're trying to bring in as many people into this zone. That's phase one.
Yeah, I agree.
Once you get critical mass and a flood of people, and you get them up towards the Capitol, that's when
The bomb started.
when did the smoke signal come out? At what
The
time?
red pop,
Yeah.
about 2:45, 2:40 between there. It was later than
What
what
do you?
everybody else.
Oh, it was later. So I'm trying to figure out at what point did the scaffold commander and Ray Epps at the bottom pop smoke in terms of getting out of the area? Was it at the same time as the breach?
No.
It was later.
Yes.
Let me ask you
The
this.
breach was at 2:12, the original breach.
Have you, because when I did Pete Santilli, last time I did Pete Santilli,
Yeah.
he informed me of some things I didn't know. There was that Ukrainian guy that had
There's a couple of them.
diplomatic pouch that could have had anything in it. And it has been rumored by some of the parents and some of the people that red smoke made people aggressive and have some sort of like
Effect.
a form of like a memory loss, like everything's fuzzy, kind of like laughing, like gas.
So yeah, those things need to be looked into, obviously.
And then Pete Santilli showed this Ukrainian guy. Do you need a piece of paper? Pete Santilli showed this Ukrainian guy with some upper government officials. I need to go back and watch the portion of the show that he talks about that. But he shows this guy meeting with some of our government officials, And then there's audio of him say, I think it's audio of him saying they popped smoke and left me behind. That Ukrainian dude. And the smoke.
I
they're
think there
talking
were
about-
multiple operations going
I
on
do
where
too.
people didn't know. There's possibility that you had foreign op going on. You had what we're talking about here. You had other ancillary groups, because when you look at all the video, there's different groups of people. You have those that are having orange hat. That's an organized group. Gary, would you
Yeah.
agree?
Oh, yeah.
You had folks that had a
We
black
just heard
top.
who those orange hats were.
It's a
Well,
whole
Millie
document.
Weaver talks about it
Inside
and
out
then
the
Inside
steel.
the Steel. That's one group. Another group that I identified was those in black top and then denim pants, and most of them had helmets on with like masks. You couldn't identify them. So there was at least a half dozen, maybe a dozen of those.
Then you
They
had-
talked about the orange hats at the Proud Boys trial yesterday.
Yeah, we'll watch that documentary. It's very interesting.
You had those that are, obviously.
You want coffee, Ivan?
No, I'm good. Good, appreciate it.
Then
So
you had
you
all
have-
the feds out in the crowd too, doing their thing.
Right, but the question is like, what style of feds were they? Were they sergeant at arms feds that were agents of the sergeant at arms?
I don't
Or
know how
were
many.
they FBI feds?
Or military, in my opinion, too. I think.
I just call them GCs. They just roll everybody in.
All right, so then once scaffold commander brings in enough people, that's when that breach occurs into the Capitol.
The second breach.
No, the actual physical breach into the not the
212.
Capitol grounds. I'm talking about
Yeah,
the
okay.
Capitol building.
Yeah.
212.
Yes.
It was
It's
at
the
212?
breach where where Dominic's seen popping that window out and they climbed.
Yeah, but who was it before Dominic that created that?
That created what? The
That
whole-
started.
Brian Ivy.
Who
You
was
don't
the
have to sit down here for hours.
who was the first person to breach the Capitol?
Are you talking about the
The first
fence?
person that went in would have been Michael Sparks.
The Capitol building itself, not the
Yeah.
grounds.
He would have been the first one to go inside the Capitol. Michael Sparks.
Okay, so of the people that in that first initial wave, who do you know that was associated with John Sullivan?
Nobody. There's a lot of questions in there.
I don't have an
And that's why I always
answer.
say if the J6 committee would have done their damn job, we wouldn't have to be. But thank God we are, because we're the ones that's going to bring it out.
So this guy Sparks, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Who's he? What's his background?
I think he's from Tennessee. He was let out on his own recognizance. He wasn't even in jail for like maybe a few days. He's been
First
out ever
guy in the
since.
Capitol. Huh.
Doesn't have to wear ankle bracelet.
He's the initial breacher
Wearing a bulletproof vest underneath his jacket. Takes his
that was
hat
released.
off before they get up to the top when they supposedly chase Eugene Goodman up the stairs. I think I need to show him the video.
So we need to see that. I need to see that.
I need to show him that video.
Go ahead.
Well, it's gonna take a while.
Okay, I got till 9 in the morning. So,
Well, to get a show for these people.
is that gonna be enough time?
Oh yeah,
There you go.
yeah. No, and this is just part of it. But let's just keep going so we can.
Yeah. So
let's, with yours.
this is my hypothesis, but you guys are the experts. So somebody breaks in, that instigates those that already are like, hey, what's going on here? We got a stolen election.
Mhm.
We're trying to air our grievances, and Mike Pence puts out a tweet that says, I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm just going to let the stolen election fly. And even one up in that, he's not even going to allow a quorum to have a presence on the House floor because he only allows, 22 in the House, 22 in the Senate, violating the 12th Amendment.
Mhm.
So that riles everybody else up even more because we don't have an opportunity to actually showcase the illegally certified election. And so that's why I think these individual actors created that entire, whatever you want to call it, to amp people up. And then the first initial breachers are the ones that instigated the rest of the crew to come in, coupled with the waving in by the cops.
Mhm. And then the violence that was perpetrated on everybody.
Right, and then what it like
And then
Dave,
the Ford.
Dave Summerall's writing history video and he shows the red flare. What time does the red, not the red smoke, but the flare, what time does that go up?
That
I think it's like 1:43 or
is,
something.
you're right. It's around that time. I can't.
I think that
do you have a
flare-
timeline?
Like the ones.
Who's got the best timeline of all this?
I'll say it right now. I'm not gonna let anybody else have it.
Hey,
You,
quit
right?
this one.
That's-
Ivan's allergic to that shit.
That's my biggest pet peeve about everything is the timeline.
I told you he's very
To
specific.
tell this story, we need to have the precise timeline
Yeah.
and the precise
It's
location.
not gonna, it's
Not
not
only
gonna,
the video, we need to showcase it. When this goes out like publicly, we need to showcase exactly location,
Mhm.
an arrow or whatever, with the video footage of where exactly that's occurring, with the exact time when that's occurring.
Yeah.
That is the most efficient, effective way to present evidence, in my opinion. Because when we have those three aspects, it's like, oh
Well, it's
wow.
like the J6 committee. What did they do? They manipulated video when they were showing that Trump was supposed to have been saying, got everybody riled up, want to hang pins when they started chanting hang pins.
Mm-hmm.
They made it sound like it was at 2:24.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what time it was.
Well, they were saying that because he committed treason with his tweet.
But they
He
were
was
trying
indicating he was
to
gonna
match
conduct
that
it.
time with his tweet, which is totally wrong. They put a timestamp on there
Yeah.
that exactly matches his account, his Twitter post, whatever you call it.
It's like a 4 o'clock
Yeah,
or
and
something.
then what time it really happened was around 4:30 when something's being.
But they said it happened around 1:15 or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Well,
So
well
how
Pence
do
put
we-
out his own tweet at 1:02 or 1:03 p.m. When he's Pence.
Well, yeah, I'm talking
Pence
about
put his out and Trump was still talking at the ellipse. I
Oh,
was over
really?
At the ellipse.
I didn't know that.
Well, yeah, and then Trump being late has a big thing to do with it too.
Yeah.
Not that he was involved as far as like with Pelosi. I don't want to say that because that's totally not true. But there's something that's not right about the time he started his speech and finished. I feel like it was supposed to have been done almost an hour before that, because then everybody at the ellipse would have already been there,
Mm-hmm.
instead of it being a lot of people from the ellipse showing up after the fact everybody got in a fight and was advancing inside the Capitol.
Which would have been about 2:30.
So in the back of my mind, I think maybe Trump knew something and he held back.
I'm
keep
of
that
the
from
opinion.
happening.
I don't think that was the case. It was just there was discussions,
But
this
the-
and that, and
But then you got to compare the videos that's been uncovered. Why are they so adamant about a certain time? 2:12, 2:12, 2:12, 2:12. Over and over, they're repeating that.
That has something to do with Pence leaving the Capitol? Those charges associated with that, you think? Maybe?
There are charges associated with whether Pence was in the building or not in the
I'm just-
building.
We need to know.
Wondering.
no. So it looks like he was in the building, but like, let me kind of fish. I'm almost done with this part. So I think it was a complete outmaneuver job because Pelosi has the legal authority over everything going on in the House, which is where the joint session was. And so there's a Capitol Police Board consisting of 4 people
Mhm.
that determine all law enforcement actions on the Capitol grounds.
That would be the architect too.
One
right?
is the architect of the Capitol, who's appointed by the president. He was not part of the conversation. When you read Chief Son's book, when you read the pre-buttal by Jim Banks, the 150-pager, and then also when you even read the 850 cover-up report, bottom line is like he wasn't really part of the conversation on that day because he was kind of like boxed out, is what I was reading. So then we were left with 3 other people. The House Sergeant at Arms, which literally has jurisdiction only over from here to here.
Really?
This part right here is where they have authority. And the House Sergeant at Arms is Paul Irving. That's his jurisdiction. The Senate Sergeant at Arms has responsibility over here. Senate Sergeant at Arms so every year they change who the president of the board is. That year, during January 6th, it was Michael Stenger, the Senate Sergeant at Arms, who's now deceased. So that's 3. And then the 4th person is the Chief of the U.S. Capitol Police, who's not a voting member.
Yeah.
So literally, he only provides security, but he doesn't get to make decisions. He can only request things happen, meaning if he wants support from the executive branch, he has to get approval from the board, meaning 2 of the 3 members,
Yeah.
House and Senate Sergeant at Arms. So if the Paul Irving House Sergeant at Arms, who works for Pelosi, is told, no, due to optics, right? Due to optics, you're not going to request any support. Translation, we're going to do a coup, and the way we do it legally is we're just going to keep the Capitol wide open, get people in. No one's going to even observe the objections because no one's going to be interested in that side of the story. We're just going to promote the story of an insurrection, and no one even knows that the illegal certifications because we're not going to present it on C-SPAN.
Mm-hmm.
Think about this.
And then
Remember
the
on
American people like you guys will have to dig for it.
Yeah.
right? Remember January 5th going into 6th? Everybody was glued to C-SPAN if you're not in D.C. right? I mean, this would have been like Super Bowl, World
Yeah,
Cup times
yeah.
10 numbers. Because people are, I think at that point, we're thinking there might be a re-election if there's enough objections.
At least go back to the States, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Because all this discussion was going on, ooh, what's going to happen? And that's when people were glued in. Pelosi took to action, I think, on the 5th, through Paul Irving, through John Sullivan, through her son-in-law, through her daughter, to basically create this event
Setup.
and set up. And I get it. You got 1 million people out here, type A, that are amped up. You got Pence doing his thing, just showcasing his treason for the whole world to see, coupled with instigators, and then you have people coming into the Capitol. That's literally what I think happened. And that's what we have to show to the rest of the country.
How do you think Sunrise Movement, shut down D.C., all that stuff that Millennium Wheeler was
That's
talking
where
about
she
factors
needs to
into
come in to
this?
testify.
Yes.
She needs to provide a testimony.
Because I sat through some of these trials, and they mentioned that there was a threat every now and then, but they always make it sound
She
like it
has-
was right-wing groups.
I think, unless you guys disagree, I think she is the lead individual on that part of the story.
Yes, there's a lot there.
Because she had people on the Zoom meetings with
Exactly,
the
federal
Antifa.
employees with Antifa talking about
Contractors.
we're
You
going
see
to.
this?
They had planned their own coup. They literally planned their own coup if Donald Trump was going to become
So
president.
here's what
how
I
they was going to
think.
shut DC
They
down.
planned it that way, but when it was, the media told America that Trump lost, they pivoted.
yes.
And that's what we saw. They
It's like a
pivoted
whiteboard
to
exercise, right?
Yeah, they basically
Uh-huh.
pivoted and adjusted their plan to essentially stop the objections from being aired for the whole world to see.
So, and when they say
And
Nancy
that's when you
Pelosi
saw
got,
people switching uniforms, right? MAGA, not
yeah,
MAGA.
yeah, I saw it. So, but I think that's the intelligence she got the night before, the morning of, and she said she still ignored it, and I think that's why she's legally negligent at the very least.
Who?
Nancy Pelosi's. Their office got word of somebody planning to shut down D.C., which I think is what Millennium Milley stumbled across. She gave it to Congress and everything before January 6th. All the stuff she found, she gave it to them. And they did not alert the authorities. Like Nancy Pelosi's chief of staff got this threat, and they didn't tell.
They refused to protect the Capitol.
Yes,
So then, was it negligence or was it something more?
negligence
I think.
at best.
I think. Yeah, they might be able to somehow prove it was
Yes,
negligence.
that's what I'm wondering. I've wondered a long
But I
time.
just don't think that happened. There's
Okay, I just
There's
wonder.
too many coincidences that when we actually subpoena all the records, I think it's going to show. Like, I'm pretty confident it's going to show it was an intentional refusal to protect the Capitol so that they could create the frame of an insurrection.
A false flag.
And the reason why I really believe that is the things that happened afterwards. What happened? All of a sudden, boom, the National Guard is now protecting the Capitol. The fencing is up. It's literally like they're defending their steel.
Exactly, and
They're
she's trying to get
defending the
missile
steel.
codes from NORAD.
They're stopping anybody from entering the Capitol for 2 years. The J6 cover-up committee cannot look into her chief of staff, her family members. Like, why didn't they get subpoenaed? To me, that's.
I mean, when they got
totally
camera
telling.
crews following them
Well,
around.
guess what? That's what we're going to focus in on.
So how long do you think we're gonna have with this guy tomorrow?
You want me to stop it right here? It's a good spot.
It's a good spot.